China and others have criticized you for using the phrase Chinese virus. How do you feel about that? Are you going to continue using that phrase?
Well, China was putting out information which was false, that our military gave this to them. That was false. And rather than having an argument, I said, I have to call it where it came from. It did come from China. So I think it's a very accurate term. But no, I didn't appreciate the fact that China was saying that our military gave it to them. Our military did not give it to anybody.
Critics say using that phrase creates a stigma.
No, I don't think so. No, I think saying that our military gave it to them creates a stigma.
Correct, accurate, win for President Trump. This is absolutely correct. Okay, can we just be frank about this? The Chinese government is responsible for this. They're responsible for this at every level. The Chinese government actively sought to silence people who are talking about the coronavirus. They actively tried to arrest people. They forced them to recant true statements about coronavirus. Not only that, according to the UK, the Sunday Times, Chinese scientists destroyed proof of the virus in December. According to the Times of London, Chinese laboratories identified a mystery virus as a highly infectious new pathogen by late December last year. They were ordered to stop tests, destroy samples, and suppress the news, a Chinese media outlet has revealed. A regional health official in Wuhan, center of the outbreak, demanded the destruction of the lab samples that established the cause of unexplained viral pneumonia on January 1st. China did not acknowledge there was human-to-human transmission until more than 3 weeks later. The detailed revelations by Kixin Global, a respected independent publication, provide the clearest evidence yet of the scale of the cover-up in the crucial early weeks when the opportunity was lost to control the outbreak. By the way, the WHO bought this hook, line, and sinker. The World Health Organization suggested in middle of January that coronavirus was not a threat because they had been informed of that by the Chinese government. Okay, the Chinese government is responsible for this. They're responsible for it from beginning to end. The Chinese government attempted actively to silence doctors warning others about the disease. According to the Washington Post, Chinese authorities spent January denying it could spread between humans, something doctors had known was happening since late December, and now we know they were destroying the proof, and went ahead with a Chinese Lunar New Year banquet involving tens of thousands of families in Wuhan. Even by the Chinese government's own accounts of events, President Xi Jinping knew about the disease for 2 weeks before making any public comments about it. Under fire, China's authoritarian government appears to be pushing a new account of events that presents President Xi Jinping as taking early action to fight the outbreak that has convulsed the country. But in doing so, the authorities have acknowledged for the first time that Mr. Xi was aware of the epidemic and involved in the response nearly 2 weeks before he first spoke publicly about it, and while people at the epicenter were still downplaying the dangers. According to the Wall Street Journal, the Chinese government let some 5 million people leave Wuhan without screening. Chinese medical authorities also banned staff from discussing the disease in public or via text or images. Okay, WeChat is currently banning Chinese Americans for talking about Hong Kong. I mean, this is insane. The Chinese government announced yesterday it's going to expel American journalists. According to Mark Tracy, Edward Wong, and Lara Jakes, in a sharp escalation of tensions between the two superpowers, China announced on Tuesday it would expel American journalists working for the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post. It also demanded that those outlets, as well as the Voice of America and Time magazine, provide the Chinese government with detailed information about their operations. The announcement was made by China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They're blaming it on America booting out Chinese propagandists who've been claiming that America's military was behind this whole thing. But in reality, is it possible that China is still covering this thing up? Of course. That's highly possible, is that China is still covering this thing up. So I don't want to hear any of this crap from Stephen Colbert about how it's racist to call this the Chinese virus. It is the Chinese government virus. And furthermore, once this abates, and once things start to go back to normal, the Trump administration should tell the Chinese government that the travel ban on Chinese citizens moving to and from the United States and on American citizens moving to and from China should continue until the Chinese authoritarian government shuts down these wet markets. Okay, the wet markets are these animal markets where people are eating civets. People are eating bats. People are eating snakes. Okay, this has now been responsible for swine flu, bird flu, SARS, H1N1, and this. Okay, so we have seen virus after virus after virus emanating from these wet markets in China, and the Chinese authoritarian government, which will jail you or maybe kill you, depending on what you say about the government or what you say about coronavirus. They won't shut down these markets. How is it that the international community is willing to allow a global pandemic to take place on its watch and the entire world economy to shudder to a screeching halt? I mean, it's unbelievable. The entire world economy is now stopped dead, like completely stopped dead. All because China would not shut down the practice of people eating frickin' bats at the local markets. This has been a problem for decades. Okay, this is nothing new. Going all the way back to the 1950s, there was an Asian flu. It was literally called the Asian flu, an Asian flu outbreak in the late 1950s, and it came from these animal markets. The Chinese government is an authoritarian government. At the very least, they should be outlawing these markets. They should be prosecuting people who are selling exotic animals for people to eat. And this is and by the way, that's not cultural racism in any way. Don't eat the frickin' bats, you idiots. I mean, seriously, how many lives would have been saved if the Chinese government had spent 1 ounce of its authoritarianism cracking down on perfectly illegal activity, or activity that ought to be illegal, like eating the local wildlife? I mean, this is insane. The Trump administration, the rest of the world should be on board for this too, honestly. Like, can we all afford to do this once every 4 or 5 years? Because that's the future. The future is that once every 4 or 5 years, once every 10 years, there will be another virus emanating from China, which has yet to shut down this stuff, and then has covered it up in authoritarian fashion, and they unleash it on an unsuspecting global community. And then all of the people in the media go, oh, it's so racist, it's so ethnically unpalatable to say this is the Chinese virus. It has nothing to do with the skin color of the people, or the location or the ethnicity of the people who are saying this stuff. It has to do with the Chinese communist authoritarian government, which has now unleashed for the 1 millionth time a virus on the rest of the world because they will not shut down what is obviously disgusting activity. I'm sorry, it is disgusting to eat a civet. Okay, it's gross. Beyond being gross. I don't care. You can do whatever is gross to your liking. Okay, I'm a libertarian on this stuff, except if there are externalities. And it turns out you eating a civet, you eating a pangolin, has some pretty significant externalities. You think we're going to lose $10 trillion in this economy because of this routine. Seriously, it is an evil government, just as evil as the Soviet Union, just nobody talks about it. I mean, literally is evil. The Great Leap Forward killed far more people than the Holodomor, the murder of millions in Ukraine by the Stalin regime. This is an evil regime, and we've been treating it with kid gloves for years. We should not be. But put that aside. Even if you're just talking about shutting down these ridiculous eating the exotic animals markets, we are now going to go from a 3.5 unemployment rate in this country to a 20% unemployment rate in this country because China refused to crack down on people eating wild animals? Seriously?
China. ¿Y por qué China pudo allá? ¿Y por qué China no recibió el apoyo de nadie y se levantó sola? Y pudo, es un gigante, pero también es por decisión política. Por una decisión política de atender el problema. No es este capitalismo de Estados Unidos, el capitalismo criminal de Estados Unidos, porque bastantes problemas tienen en España y bastantes problemas tienen en Estados Unidos. En Estados Unidos le han mentido al mundo sobre el tema del coronavirus. Se han burlado del mundo. Se han burlado del mundo. Ellos tienen allí coronavirus desde hace mucho tiempo. Dijeron, y ahora dicen, su presidente dice el virus chino. Además metiéndole una alta carga racista, cuando todo demuestra que ese virus fue creado en Estados Unidos y lo llevaron a unos juegos militares allá a China. Y comenzó allí la propagación. Es Estados Unidos con sus armas químicas, bacteriológicas contra el mundo. Ahora se les está revirtiendo. Más de 300 muertos creo que ya llevan. Más de 300 muertos. Y eso comienza a ser una progresión geométrica. Una progresión geométrica. Cada día más grande. Más grande. ¿Hasta dónde? Hasta que se alcanza un tope. ¿Cuál es el tope? No lo sabemos.
Rusia lo sabe perfectamente y China lo sabe perfectamente.
Rusia tiene que reaccionar.
La irrupción de Vox en la arena política española están copando los titulares de los medios. Y si ya es grave no saber o no querer identificar al fascismo, ¿qué podemos decir de ponerse a su servicio?
Tal parece que estamos a las puertas de una nueva era,
Ya
con
sé,
un nuevo
ya sé lo que
orden
algunas
mundial.
personas van a decir.
¿Lo quiere Estados Unidos o no?
Sí, ya sé lo que algunas personas van a decir.
Esto es propaganda.
Aquí cabe volver a destacar que el objetivo principal de Rusia es allanar el camino para que China, país amigo históricamente, escucha a Putin las riendas del nuevo orden mundial. No, amigo mío, ¿tú crees que Putin no lo vio venir?
Llamar dictadura a Venezuela también es divertido. Eso es otra de las mentiras. Llamar dictadura porque no te guste.
Rusia y China están poniendo las bases para lograrlo.
Sí, ya sé lo que algunas personas van a decir.
No, amigo mío, ¿tú crees que Putin no lo vio venir?
Rusia tiene que reaccionar.
Rusia y China han vuelto a la arena internacional con nuevas ideas y con el planteamiento de un nuevo orden mundial. A estas horas está a un nivel de cocción muy, pero muy alto.
Rusia y China están poniendo las bases para lograrlo. Y si se demuestra que el ejército de Estados Unidos no es tan fuerte como parece, el dólar tampoco lo es.
El presidente ruso también ha reprendido a Estados Unidos por dar lecciones sobre libertad e igualdad.
El presidente ruso lo tiene claro.
Sí, ya sé lo que algunas personas van a decir.
Llamar dictadura a Venezuela también es divertido. Otra de las mentiras, llamar dictadura porque no te guste.
Pero Putin también sabía perfectamente que China sí que lo tiene todo para destronar a Estados Unidos.
Pero de lo que carece Rusia lo tiene China, así que ambos se complementan.